Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Lots of fireworks happening in the market today, and got some companies to talk about that had news out. What's going on in the market today is the regional banks and even the big banks are getting pummeled pretty aggressively. The worst performers are Pacific West Bank Corp, Western Alliance Bank Corp, Metropolitan Bank. They were all down over 20% earlier today, had to be halted a couple of times and then trading again. What spooked the market is the Federal Reserve meeting tomorrow and the wake of First Republic being taken over yesterday by JP Morgan. There was a quote by JP Morgan that I don't know if Jamie Dimon was had a Freudian slip or not, but he said, and I quote, "This part of the crisis is over," end quote, when he was talking about the banking crisis. And I believe it's far from over. I think that there's a lot of banks that are holding similar assets to what caused Silicon Valley Bank and Signature to go under, and including First Republic, that had to be taken over by JP Morgan with the backing of the FDIC, and to the tune of about $60 million or billion dollars. And now we see that that it looks like they're giving you a playbook of the next group that are in trouble, including PacWest, Western Alliance, and Metropolitan Bank. And this doesn't surprise me at all. I've been talking about the contagion effect of, a lot of these banks hold similar assets as the Signature and Silicon Valley Bank, in that they're holding a lot of long-term bonds and mortgage-backed securities that are underwater quite significantly. And if they ever had to market those assets, they would be pretty much insolvent. And what's lost on a lot of people is that the Federal Reserve is in a similar situation. Their holdings of those type of assets make all these other small regional banks look like child's play. And that's probably why the Federal Reserve, although it's supposed to be overseeing these banks, is not making them mark to market their assets, because if the Federal Reserve ever had to mark to market its assets, it would be insolvent as well. And yet it's supposed to be the one who's backing up all of these banks. So when yesterday we had First Republic, the culmination of that and being taken over by JP Morgan, and tomorrow we have the Federal Reserve meeting, and I think the banks are screaming at the Federal Reserve to stop raising interest rates, because that's what's pushed all their assets underwater. Over the 14 years after the economic collapse in 2008, you had near zero interest rates, where these bankers were loading up their assets with those kind of assets that were bought with interest rates near zero. And then this year, over the last year, they've jacked them up to nearly 5%. And so it's obviously causing a lot of turmoil in the banking sector. And, the Federal Reserve had kind of ignored a lot of the problems it was causing by raising the interest rates so aggressively after 14 years of near zero interest rates. And now it's coming to roost in their their favorite child, which is the banks. And not only are the banks screaming for the Fed to stop raising interest rates, the politicians are also joining that chorus, and also asking the Federal Reserve to stop raising interest rates. Now, it's until today, it seemed pretty baked in the cake that the Fed was going to raise another quarter point. Maybe they do and ignore all this turmoil that they're causing. But I think that they've got to talk about even if they raise the interest rates, they got to start talking about that they're going to stop raising interest rates, because they certainly are breaking a lot of things. And in the traditional role of the Federal Reserve was to raise interest rates a couple of times and then see how the data comes in. Well, they raised it multiple times, and the data is coming in very poorly for the economy, for the banking sector, housing sales, car sales, big ticket item sales, the interest rates on credit cards that many consumers are using to make ends meet are at 19% on average. These are things that aren't just going to affect the short term. They're going to affect the short, medium, and long term. And so it's on this backdrop, with inflation and the banking crisis and the currency wars that are going on throughout with the BRIC nations all trying to have an alternative to the US dollar being the world reserve currency used for trade. It looks like they are trying to have a competitor, and all of the same central bankers that are joining or are in the BRIC alliance, if you will, are also buying a great deal of gold. And they're doing somewhat of a gold standard, backing up their competitor to the US dollar for trade. All of these things combined, I think, are a very strong argument that investors should be parking their money for protection in gold, silver, and other commodities priced in the US dollar. And also, for those that want to grow their assets, they should be looking at the gold and the silver and the mining stocks, because those stocks are trading at record valuations on the low end. And so we kind of have a perfect storm set up for the mining stocks. And I've got some to talk about today. The big news in the market today was that Osisko Mining and Goldfields announced a 50-50 joint venture to develop the Windfall Gold project. The highlights of that transaction: Goldfields' initial cash payment to Osisko of $300 million on signing. Goldfields' additional cash payment to Osisko of $300 million on issuance of the applicable permits authorizing construction, operation, and mining of the Windfall project. Goldfields to sole fund expenditures for regional exploration up to a maximum of $75 million, after which regional exploration programs would be proportionally funded by each of Osisko and Goldfields. In addition to the initial cash payments and deferred cash payments, Goldfield to make two additional separate $17 million cash payments to Osisko. These represent reimbursements of items already incurred by Osisko as part of the pre-construction spend. Goldfields and Osisko share all pre-construction costs. Provisional budget estimated at $350 million, and construction cost, feasibility capital expenditure estimated at $789 million on a 50-50 basis. Governance arrangements will equal representation in the partnership with Osisko and Goldfields to leverage each party's skill set. John Berzynski stated, and I quote, he's the CEO and chairman of Osisko: "We are very pleased to partner with Goldfields on the Windfield project and our exploration property portfolio. Today is the start of what we will believe will prove to be a long and fruitful partnership with Goldfields at Windfall and what we both believe is a significant emerging gold district in Quebec. This partnership further strengthens our strong balance sheet, allows us to significantly de-risk Windfall, and brings us a very important step closer to realizing our objective of becoming a leading Canadian gold producer. With the proceeds from the transaction, Osisko is fully funded for our share of development capital to bring Windfall into production. Osisko shareholders retain considerable upside in the project while also benefiting from the mine building, operating, and technical expertise of Goldfields. Assuming the project is ultimately permitted and approved by the partners consistent with the Windfall feasibility studies, Goldfields acquisition costs, exploration commitment, and contribution to pre-construction and project capital would ultimately represent an investment of $1.2 billion Canadian to acquire its interest, bring Windfall into production, and further unlock the regional exploration upside. This transaction is highly compelling on many fronts and represents the best path forward to maximize value for our stakeholders, end quote. Then Sean Roosen stated Osisko Mining would like to acknowledge, he went on to say, Osisko Mining would like to acknowledge and thank Sean Roosen in particular and the directors of Osisko Gold Royalties for their forward-looking vision in supporting the 2015 recreation of Osisko Mining. One of the key investment decisions in OGR's very innovative and successful accelerator model concept to create new high-value negative cost royalties tied to equity investment in new exploration companies. OGR holds a 2 to 3% NSR royalty on the Windfall area claims and 13% of the undiluted equity in the corporation. That's some big news there. It creates another big mine for the Osisko group that developed and built the Malartic mine. And now they're at it again, and they've got a deep-pocketed partner there to help fund their side of the 50-50 joint venture. Very big news in the mining sector, and want to take a look at Osisko Mining. All right, a couple of companies with pending news that I want to talk about before I talk about the companies with news is i-80 Gold. i-80 Gold is in the final stages of acquiring their next door neighbor called Sokoman Minerals. Both companies are in Eureka, Nevada, and right beside each other, they have found bonanza CRD deposits, including high grades of silver, lead, zinc, and an overprint of high-grade gold. And collectively, it makes sense for the two of them to be together because i-80 Gold has the processing facility and the permits to bring both of those projects into production with some amendments to their current mining permits. And so this is an important transaction for both i-80 Gold and Paycore. The Paycore shareholders will become shareholders in i-80 Gold, and i-80 Gold can quickly move forward with developing these as a group or together instead of separate entities, one owned by i-80 Gold and one owned by Paycore when they're so close together. Now, the news that is pending for this transaction is Paycore has already received their shareholder approval. Now it goes to the court approval, and then it's pretty much a done deal. And one day, not too distant future, Paycore Minerals will cease to trade, and i-80 Gold will have all the assets. I expect that they're in the court part of that today. So in the next day or two, hopefully there's some news out about this final regulatory approval for the transaction to happen. Another company that has pending news is Dynasty Gold. Dynasty Gold has made a discovery, quite an impressive discovery in an orogenic gold system of very high grade to bonanza grades of gold. Their best hole was 1.5 meters at 264 grams per ton of gold. So some real bonanza grades. And what's interesting about that is there's 4 holes now that kind of line up in showing continuity. And then right below that, they got another, looks like another zone with bonanza grades in it as well. They're currently doing a private placement that should be closing any day now. And an important part of that, is that Rob McEwen is participating to the tune of $1.2 million Canadian in that private placement. Now, this is important for me because Rob McEwen really became famous because of the Corp mine, Red Lake mine, which was also an orogenic gold system where they had, when he was running Corp, they had one of the lowest cost production in the gold mining business, very high margin operation. It made a lot of money, and Rob McEwen knows what important orogenic gold systems look like. And although the company is only a few holes into testing the depth potential of this orogenic gold system near Dryden, Ontario, which is not very far from Red Lake, Ontario, it has all the right hallmarks. It's in a greenstone belt. It's got the structural story that's necessary, and most importantly, it's hitting high grade to bonanza grade with continuity, and it remains open at depth. So this financing that's awaiting regulatory approval will allow the Dynasty to get in there and start drilling to extend that known high grade to bonanza grades at depth. And I really like what I see with the potential and the good housekeeping seal of approval from Rob McEwen. Dynasty symbol is DYG. They're a sponsor of my shows, and I'm also participating in the private placement that they're doing right now. The next company is Summa Silver. Summa Silver initially came to my attention because of the very high grade results of drilling that they're getting on a project that they have called Mogollon in New Mexico. But they also have an important project in Tonopah, Nevada. And today they announced the key highlights. Drilling has commenced. A reverse circulation drill rig has mobilized to site and is currently advancing the first hole of the program. A core rig is also on site and will be drilling core tails on select holes. So they drill down with the reverse circulation because it's a lot cheaper. And then when they get down to the area of interest, then they put the core hole in there, or the core rig in there, and continue the hole. Another highlight is that they high potential targets. 5 targets will be tested and a minimum of 7 holes are planned. Targets were selected based on thorough interpretation of geophysical, geochemical, and geological mapping data acquired by the company. Additional drilling at the Ruby discovery, representing the extension of the Tonopah district and located 1.3 kilometers east of the Belmont mine. This discovery will be tested with aggressive step outs. Mineralization already intersected at Ruby. The 3 holes drilled by the company at Ruby in 2020 and 2021 all intersected zones of quartz veining, alteration, and intermittent mineralization with features strikingly similar to the ore bodies in the heart of the Tonopah district. And you can see the company's news releases from December 17th, 2020 and March the 3rd, 2022 to see those results. New targets include emerald, diamond, sapphire, and topaz. These 4 new target areas, which were previously unrecognized, represent significant discovery opportunities just outside of the historic Tonopah district. Actually, it definitely is historic. Fully funded. The company remains fully funded with approximately $10.5 million in working capital. Galen McNamara, who's the CEO, stated, and I quote, "The targets we will be drilling at the Hughes project this season were developed from a systematic, multi-layered approach, which has included detailed interpretations of structural geology, geophysics, and geochemistry. In our opinion, it's very rare that compelling undrilled targets can still exist within sight of a prolific, historically producing mining district like Tonopah. The 5 targets we will be drilling at the Hughes project this spring and summer represents opportunities for significant new discoveries that the team has been very much looking forward to testing for some time," end quote. So they'll do that drilling on the Hughes project in Nevada, and then they'll be able to get back on the Mogollon project in New Mexico. So they're going to have news flow for the rest of this year, and I think that will launch them into spectacular things in 2024. So stay tuned for that news. Summa Silver's stock symbol is SSVR. They trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture Market. They are a sponsor of my reports, and that's a new sponsor in the last month or so, and I'm very optimistic about their future. It's really rare to have a company finding such high-grade gold and silver on one project, but they have it on 2 projects, and now they've got drilling underway on one of those projects, so stay tuned for more news from them. Blackrock Silver is also a sponsor of my reports. Their symbol is BRC. They trade on the Venture Exchange. They announced that they've got the main reason that I follow Blackrock is for their gold and silver projects in Tonopah and also at their Silver Cloud project in Nevada, but they're also involved with a really exciting lithium project, and they announced that their partner Tirlac reported lithium results for 3 additional core holes from its phase 1 core drilling at the Tonopah North Lithium project called Gabriel. Tirlac continues to intersect significant grade and thickness in their phase 1 core program. Assays for these 3 core drill holes show higher than expected lithium values as compared to the original discovery drilling, and have established an expanded mineralized blanket covering an area of 2 by 2.75 kilometers. Tirlac has reported 8 of 11 core holes from their phase 1 core drilling, with lithium assays pending for the remaining 3 holes. All reported drill holes from the phase 1 core program intersected thick zones of significant mineralization above 400 ppm lithium, which was the cutoff, each with higher grade intervals above 1,000 ppm lithium. Tirlac's drilling continues to confirm Blackrock's original Gabriel lithium discovery, albeit grades from its phase 1 core program are 40 to 85% higher than the corresponding original Blackrock reverse circulation intercepts. Tirlac's assay results have increased the average lithium grade of the drill intercepts and show significant expansion potential of the lithium-bearing horizon, with the system remaining open to the south and west, and additional assays pending from the northern and southern extents of the property. The Gabriel project is situated in west central Nevada, along the emerging Tonopah Lithium Belt. It's adjoining American Lithium's TLC deposit. So some of the highlights, highest value being 1,410 parts per million lithium over 1.8 feet. The longest interval was 28.7 meters, grading 541 ppm, including 5 meters of grading 860 ppm. They cut the thickest intercept with a grade of 703 ppm over 8.26 meters. Thick zones of lithium mineralization above that 400 ppm cutoff have intersected all reported drill holes, 3 core holes pending. Andrew Pollard, who's the president and CEO of Blackrock, commented, "We are highly encouraged by TIRLAC's latest drill results, which suggest that the lithium-bearing system at the Gabriel project continues to be more extensive and high grade than initially thought. The 3 additional core holes reported that have expanded the footprint of mineralization, establishing continuity across an area of 2 to 2.75 kilometers, whilst skewing the average grades at the project higher. Drilling indicates that the system remains open to the south and west, with potential for either further expansion pending assays for the remaining 3 drill holes from this program. With a maiden resource plan by the end of the year, we see potential for significant value to be unlocked for a shareholder as the discovery is advanced," end quote. So the main assets that excite me about Blackrock are the resource that they have in the Tonopah district. Very nice grade, potential to get a lot bigger, and then also they've got a new epithermal vein discovery up in their Silver Cloud project that looks quite exceptional as well. Hit 70 grams of gold and 600 grams of silver at that project. So now they know where the boiling zone is on that epithermal vein. They can expand on it. And then also there's a potential to find more because these epithermal veins tend to come in clusters. So Blackrock Silver has a lot of news flow ahead of them. Then I'd advise you to take a look at their website and the interviews that I've done with Andrew Pollard, who's the CEO of the company. You can find that on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. Goliath Resources has just become a new sponsor of my shows. In fact, I wrote an article welcoming them, and I included some really key information in that article that you can find at rocksandstocks.substack.com. What really excites me is that they've got this big area with widespread gold mineralization. They've hit 97% success rate with their drilling. The average thickness is over 6 meters and the average grade is over 6 grams. And it looks like they've got a system of faulting that all comes together, where the sheets of mineralization, stacked sheets of zones of mineralized gold mineralization, continues down the bottom of the mountain. This looks like where everything comes together. I think there easily could be made the argument that they're looking at a 2 to 5 million ounce gold project there that could get even higher, bigger than that. And they announced today that they've increased their private placement. It started at 8 million. Now it will go up to between 9 and 9.65 million. So this is going to load up their treasury for additional drilling. And please go to my Substack, check out that article I wrote because there's a lot of great information in there about the size potential, what they've found, what it all means. And I'll be doing an interview with them in the not too distant future as well. Sokoman Minerals is also a sponsor of my reports. SIC is their stock symbol on the venture exchange. They announced today that they're doing a 5,000 meter drill program on their 50-50 joint venture with Wolfden Resources. This is for a lithium project. Some of the highlights from that is they drilled the Killick Dike drilling and they hit 1.04% lithium over 15.23 meters. Had 1.48% in there, 1.23, 1.08. Other dikes tested include 0.95% over 8.4 meters, 1.76% over 0.8 meters, 5.5 meters at 1.16. So in these hard rock pegmatite systems, that 1% seems to be an important threshold, and they're very early days of drilling this lithium project, and they're already at that kind of litmus test. And I really think that they're onto a great new lithium discovery in Newfoundland. And then they've also got an exciting orogenic gold system that they just started drilling late last year into the what I call a bonanza grade zone. And that bonanza jewelry box is from the deepest drilling that they've ever done on the project. And that's important in these orogenic gold systems, because as you're distal from the heat engine, you're looking at usually fine-grained gold. And as you get deeper, you get the more coarse-grained gold, and the grade goes up. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that made for the Red Lake mine in Ontario to be such a high-margin operation, and the Swan Zone at the Fosterville mine in Ontario, or in Australia, such a money-making machine. And these guys have started drilling the depth potential and are hitting jewelry boxes. So they've got two great projects on the horizon. One is orogenic gold system at Moosehead, and the other is their lithium project. So take a look at Sokoman Minerals. SIC is their stock symbol. Okay, now I'm going to switch to Wolfden Resources. And Wolfden Resources has been going through a permitting program to get their what looks like a future mine into production. Now, the reason I say that it looks like a future mine is, if you look at their mineral resource that has been calculated on this, they've got 2.74 million tons indicated, with a grade of 8.91% zinc, 3.8% lead, 1.22% copper, 97 grams of gold, 0.8 grams of 97 grams of silver, and 0.8 grams of gold, which, when you calculate that, turns into a zinc equivalent grade of 17.72%. And the inferred is another 3.6 million tons, with an average grade of zinc of 9.27%, lead 3.83, 1% of copper, 105 grams of silver, 0.7 grams of gold, and that works out to a zinc equivalent grade of 17.65%. So they've got some very juicy grades there of zinc and copper and some gold and silver to enhance it. So they're moving hard towards getting a permits. And my understanding is, based on this news release, is that they've had a lot of community support, and now they're going through the the government support or process to get their permits in order to start mining this operation. There's a good quote from Jeremy Willett, who is the VP Development, Corporate Project Development of Wolfden, and he stated, and I quote, "This is another positive milestone for the company in the application process, as it has been just 90 days since the application was filed. We are appreciative of the diligent and responsive approach the LUPC staff have taken during the submission and review process, as well as the tremendous support we have received from the surrounding communities. Many of the neighboring communities, including Hersey, Morrow Plantation, Patton, Stacyville, and Sherman, have already passed by public vote ordinance or resolutions in support of the project. We look forward to addressing any further feedback from the LUPC, other state agencies, consultants, and the public. As a lead up to the LUPC public hearing to be held in the region of the project, we plan to continue to host public information sessions that highlight the prospective nature of Maine's Chapter 200 mining regulations and the community's right to be heard in the mine permitting process," end quote. So Wolfden has what I think looks like a hell of a future mine on their hands in Maine, and they're going through that public consultation and towards permitting it. Do your homework on that. I think you'll find a pretty exceptional resource and what looks like a very exciting mine of the future. And yeah, check out Wolfden. Wolfden stock symbol is WLF on the Venture Exchange. And yeah, have a look at what they've got going. All right, that's it for the In the News. Do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, check out the company's website, check out their corporate presentations. A bunch of these companies I've had interviews with. You can find those on the YouTube at Rocks and Stocks News, and also on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.